So you've outgrown your space in Toronto, but the market feels really shaky and you're wondering, does it make sense now to trade up in the August 2025 real estate market? Well, stay tuned and let's talk about all the different scenarios.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as we sit around the table with my friends to talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
So I know this video won't land with the majority of you watching this video because the income required to purchase your first home in Toronto, or any home for that matter, to get a mortgage is like insane. The price of Toronto homes is just, it's crazy. It's probably our biggest political issue, the unaffordability of homes. And when you say you have a housing crisis, it's not a housing crisis, availability of housing, it's the affordability crisis. That's really what it means. So the majority of people here do rent, but if you're lucky enough to own something, you've owned something in the past and you're wondering, you need more space and it's time to upsize, is it a good time now? Okay, well, the Toronto Real Estate Board just released their stats for July 2025. Right now we're in August, but we're looking at last month's number. And ultimately, the average price on overall housing types is down by 5.5%. So it might sound like a crazy time to sell right now in order to buy something. Let's assume, first of all, you have to sell to buy. Like there's a lot of people that don't need to sell and they keep their properties and they turn to investment properties and they just go buy something else. If you're one of those lucky people, congratulations. You're probably not spending time on YouTube watching this. But if you aren't, if you're like most people, you probably have to sell first. And you're wondering, well, now is not a good time to sell. Well, I have another argument for you. So you look at the average prices and let's just say you're moving from a condo in downtown Toronto, 416, not downtown, but just all of Toronto, really. The average price for condos right now is $684,000. That's down by 8.6% year over year from last year. So really, we're down about 58,000. Last year was in the 700s. I do remember that, like low 700,000s. At the same time, detached homes haven't shrunk that much. They're still really expensive. 1.572 million, down by 4.6%. Basically, it was up by $72,000 last year in the 1.6s. So it really hasn't come down all that much. That gap is still like double, and that drop for condos have doubled than what the detached homes have been selling for. If you price it right, like there's a whole bunch of strategies to sell a detached home. You gotta just get one buyer. I'm not saying market to stupid buyers, but if you market en masse, you'll find that one buyer that is willing to buy it because all it takes is just one. So that means staging it well, presenting it well, marketing it well, showing it well, exposing it properly, and getting the most amount of people into the door so you find that one buyer. That's all you need. That being said, if you're trading up for a condo, there's a lot of condos, there's a lot of options out there, and even doing those same strategies may not work the same way. But that's not to say that there aren't sales happening. There still are sales happening. The headlines last month in July were saying that this is the first time it rebounded in the past 3 years that sales have actually gone up year over year.
The housing market in the Greater Toronto Area saw its best July in 4 years last month. The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board says sales rose close to 11% in July compared with a year earlier. 6,100 properties changed hands, the most activity recorded in the month since 2021.
So everybody's celebrating that right now in July because I think buyer sentiment is it's not that it's back and it's not that we're going to see crazy bidding wars, but it's just more that everyone's just kind of sick of the news, sick of the tariffs, sick of the economy being bad, sick of interest rates for that matter. And people still need to make life decisions. Life doesn't stop. Unless you're in a one-bedroom condo forever, there's no judgment there. That's a great life. You have no problems, or at least compared to people with families. But if you have an expanding family or shrinking family or whatever it might be, you're not going to stay put forever. Like you need to make that move. If you plot this out on a spreadsheet, $684,000 with a 8.6% drop, you're losing $58,000 from the previous year. But if you are able to manage to get into a detached home, right now on average priced at $1.57 million in the city of Toronto, that's a minus 4.6% drop, down by $72,000. So the difference that you would lose between a detached home to a condo apartment is about $13,000. Not the end of the world, you make that up. What I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of merit in considering to trade up right now. But I'm going to caveat this. You have to have a good job where you're not worried about your job prospects. If you're going to get fired, if your company's going to shrink and you get laid off, or if you can lose your income, if you're self-employed or an entrepreneur and you're not doing too well. If you are stable in that aspect and you are qualified for the mortgage and you're not stretching yourself too much to basically double up in payments, maybe now's the time to do it. Because if you remember back then, there was bidding wars, like crazy bidding wars for freehold properties, and even so much in the condo market as well too. But when times were crazy, there was a lot of bidding wars. I remember seeing houses of 80 bids. You're basically competing with 79 other people, and the majority of the people aren't good bids, they're just putting in low balls. But there's still a strong handful of people you truly are competing with to buy that one home. And why is that? If you're looking at freehold properties, no one's really creating them anymore. Like you can't buy more land unless you're moving out to the suburbs. But if you're in the city somewhere, there's no more land being built. You're not converting industrial properties magically en masse anyway and converting them to residential. Like rezoning is a whole process. Right now, condos is not the best market for condo prices. But sooner or later, we have a supply crunch coming. Nobody's been building anything since 2022 because the demand isn't really there. And I think it was yesterday morning, the StatsCan just released the building permit data, and we're significantly down. Like you see in the media that we're not going to hit our target that Mark Carney promised to hit in 2030, I think it was, or 10 years from now. We're well behind pace in building permit start.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has committed to build nearly 500,000 homes annually. In May and June, residential construction intentions dropped 15%. These figures come after Ontario reported it is not on track to meet its housing target of 1.5 million homes built by 2031.
At some point, if immigration or demand still continues on and the supply isn't there to meet it, well, we're going to have the same thing happening in the next cycle. We're just going to have bidding wars for even condos as well, too. They're not making more real estate. In fact, in my personal experience, I'm seeing a lot more renters, a lot more tenants out there. And I'm not saying home ownership is for everybody, but if you do decide to own, for the wonderful benefits of having home ownership, of buying an asset, being able to leverage against it, seeing the prices go up and appreciate for cash flow and just price appreciation in general, and having the stability and the tenure of basically no landlord saying, I want my place back and kick you out in the streets, right? In my last video, I was talking about if you are renting forever, that's okay too. Just make sure you're saving money so you don't come across those situations where all of a sudden you're displaced because prices are like just doubled and you can't afford that anymore. And you have to now move out of the province. That's kind of scary. All I'm saying is that home ownership has wonderful benefits, but in order to trade up, you have to make that personal sacrifice or that decision. Now is the right time to do it. The mantra I'm looking at is that you're selling low, but you're also buying low. So you sell low to buy low. That might not be for everybody. It's all personal situation based. So again, if you want to talk to me, just click the link below. There's a calendar link and you could actually book a 15-minute one-on-one call with me. You know, we can talk about your personal situation because it's not for everybody. But if it's the right time to do it and you feel like you need more space, maybe you had a partner that you just recently formed a new household, and now you have double income to support the house, or maybe you're selling two properties. You're selling an investment property and you're selling your own property and you're making it into a larger property. Or you've been diligent, you've been saving your money and you have it available, and now is the time to make that change. They're not making any more land. And in the future, I don't know when, but at some point, the currency is going to continue to get diluted through inflation. But purchasing power of your dollar will continue to shrink. And in 20 years from now, you're going to look back and think, was that a good time to buy? And it probably will be, like no matter what time you buy it at. The long term will erase a lot of mistakes that you make because it will go up. It goes up like this, like a little zigzag, up and down seesaw, but it shoots up. My personal opinion, it's not going to stay down forever. We're in a real estate cycle, and the cycle just so happens to be kind of at the bottom or near the bottom. Canada is still a sovereign country, and there's not going to nothing. We're still going to continue to grow at some point, and we have a lot of good things happening here. So every situation and every person's situation is unique. If you want to pick my brain, I have 20 years of experience of doing this. I've traded up my own home multiple times, and also for that of my clients recently as well too. Let's talk about it. I'll give you some honest advice, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Add it up. Thanks for sticking out to the very end. I hope you got some value out of this. Do me a favor, please press like and subscribe. But more than anything, leave me some feedback so we know what to produce for you going forward. Thanks again.